Hello everybody, welcome to this video on TutorialsPoint. Today we will talk about introductions and greetings. Well, have you ever felt anxious or shy if you had to introduce yourself in front of a group of people? Or you do not know how to respond when someone greets you? Well, fear not, because most of us feel a little shy whenever we are faced with such a situation or circumstance. Today in this video tutorial, we will talk about how to introduce and how to greet properly in a formal or an informal setting. Let's get started. Well, on the agenda today is what is greeting, what is an introduction, formal and informal greetings, common situations wherein we have to introduce ourselves, the different ways for greeting, how to respond when someone greets you, and certain basic rules of greetings. Well, I'm very excited to teach you on this module on introductions and greetings. Well, what is an introduction? It is the first thing which you actually showcase about yourself to another person whom you might not know so well. Well, it is the first thing that you do and also the first impression that you make of yourself. So let's understand on introductions. The act of beginning something absolutely new, the act of starting something new for the first time, introducing someone new, formally making a person known to another person or to the public in general. Well, introductions are made at a formal setting or at an informal setting, and that can make or break your impression if you do not introduce yourself with the expected norms of introductions. Well, we'll talk about certain steps for making the impression or rather the introduction of yourself, and we have two speakers here. One is Arun and one is Rahul. So Rahul will introduce himself by saying, "Hi, I am Rahul," or "My name is Rahul." In response to Rahul's greeting, Arun will say, "Nice to meet you, Rahul," or "I am Arun," or "My name is Arun." Well, friends, I would like you to make a note of this grammatical mistakes which most of you might make by saying myself so and so, myself Rahul or myself Arun. Well, it's grammatically not correct to say myself, so rather you should say I am so and so or my name is so and so. Well, please keep that in mind. Let's understand what is greeting. Well, we've understood what introduction is. A part of introduction is also greeting. So let's look at that. A greeting is something friendly or polite that you say or do when you meet or welcome someone. It is a message that says you hope someone is well, happy, etc. Well, a greeting is something which is really making an impression of yourself on the other person, and there has to be certain etiquette and courtesy around saying a greeting. So something like pleased to meet you, nice to meet you, have a great day. These are certain greetings. Let's look at that now. Well, there are different ways to greet one another. Let's look at that. Good morning, good afternoon or good evening, that's one way of a formal way of greeting somebody at your workplace by saying, "Hi, good morning." So that's one way. You can say something like, "How do you do?" "How are you?" That's again a very simple way of greeting someone. "Nice to see you," with a nice smile on your face. "Well, pleased to meet you." "Good to see you." "What a pleasant surprise." That's again one way of greeting someone. "Haven't seen you for some time now" is again a way. "Long time no see." Well, friends, we are talking about different ways of greeting. A simple greeting line can be said in different ways to make it very nice and jovial instead of using the same boring, monotonous way of saying, "Hi, how are you?" So use different ways of greetings that we have just mentioned on this particular slide. Well, to say "how are you," let's look at that. Different ways of saying "how are you." So, how are you doing? How are things with you? How is everything? How are you getting along? How are you keeping? And how have you been? Well friends, how are you is a simple sentence or a phrase but can be said in different ways to make your life interesting and also add a little bit of spice in your life by saying things in a different manner. Well, I'm sure you would like to try out while you are seeing this video. I'm sure you would really want to use this practically. So go ahead and use it now. Well, if somebody tells you, how are you, there are certain ways to respond to the how are you. Let's understand what these different ways of saying, or rather responses of saying how are you. Fine, thank you. And you? I'm very well, thank you. Not too bad, thanks. I am the same as usual. Just so. If you're not feeling very good about it, you can say something like, I'm just feeling so. Same as usual. Not very well, I'm afraid. Can't complain. Well, if someone tells you or asks you, at a formal or an informal setting, asking you, how are you doing? You can give such responses. These are different ways to respond to how are you. Well, let's now understand certain basic rules of greetings. Let's see what they are. Well, a greeting or an introduction is made with first impressions. So is the first thing you're actually saying about yourself without really knowing the other person. So it's important to have a good impression by the way of your introductions and greetings. All relationships begin with a greeting. Well, you don't know a stranger, and if you have to form a relationship, a working or a personal relationship with that person, your first and your foremost step towards the relationship starts with a nice greeting and introduction. Trust is established. Well friends, you'll be quite surprised to know data or research tells us people actually form an impression with the help of the way you introduce yourself, and they're likely to either trust you or not trust you only on the basis of how you have introduced and greeted the other person. That is your first 5 seconds of your impression on someone, and people can actually make or break your impression with that. Your greetings needs to be very polite and thoughtful. Well, nobody would like to know you if you're impolite and not very thoughtful in the way you greet somebody. If you put someone down or are rude to someone in the way you greet them, that can be a major disaster. So please be careful there. Well, assumptions are made. People actually judge you or perceive you in a certain way only on the basis of your greetings and introductions. It makes the atmosphere healthy. Well, if you want to burst the bubble or rather break the ice or start a conversation with someone, it helps the other person have a healthy atmosphere by saying a nice line of greeting or introductions. Let's look at certain informal ways of greetings and how to say goodbye. Hey, hi, how are you? How are things? Well, these are informal ways when you say yeah, or doing is again a very informal way which we never ever use at a workplace. We use them with our colleagues and our friends outside the work area. Saying something like, how's it going? How's ya doing? What's up? What's new? And what's happening? These are again ways of greeting and introductions in an informal setting. I'm good, I'm all right, pretty good, not bad, nothing much or nothing special is a way you will respond to a greeting which is in an informal setting. Saying something like, nice meeting you, take care, take it easy, I'm off, so long, see ya. Again, these are ways in which you can respond to a greeting at an informal setting. Now friends, I'm sure you would be using all of these a lot whenever you meet your friends and colleagues, so do keep these in mind. Let's now look at certain formal greeting expressions, and that's very important to understand. You use these at a very formal setup or a business setup. Let's see what they are. Saying something like, I am Lisa Black. Now you can say this in a different expression by saying, my name is Lisa Black. Remember friends, we had discussed a little while back, do not say something like, myself Lisa Black. That's grammatically not correct. Well, to say nice to meet you can be said in different ways and expressions. Something like this: I'm pleased to meet you. I'm glad to meet you. It's a pleasure to meet you. It's my honor to meet you. Well, if you're meeting a colleague who's a little senior to you in hierarchy or power, it's a good way to use such kind of expressions. Have you two met? Now, if you are introducing two people together, asking a simple questions like have both of you met each other can be said in a different expressions. For example, do you know each other? May I introduce you to him or her? So that's again a way of introducing two people, or rather you use this phrase before introducing two people. Saying something like he is an HR associate, a different way of saying it can be he reports to the HR manager, or he is in charge of training and recruitment in the HR department. Again, different expressions of saying the same thing in a different manner. May I introduce you to Miss Lee? Again, in a very formal setup, if you have to introduce somebody, you say something like this in a different way. Please allow me to introduce you to Miss Lee. Please let me introduce you to Miss Lee. That's again a different way of saying whenever you want to introduce another person to an unknown stranger. Well, we use common situations in a formal setup to use certain introductions, like in a face-to-face interaction with a colleague after exchanging couple of mails. Now, you might be, introducing mails, or rather sending out mails to a colleague who is not in the same location as you. Now, when you come face-to-face with that person whom you have been writing emails but not have seen him face-to-face, that's a situation to use your formal greetings and introductions. When you have to introduce yourself to an unknown stranger, probably a new joinee at work, you visit your business partner's company and are introduced to that company's executives, introducing to an unknown peer, and introduced to other person who have the same social status. When you have a business gathering, for example, a business lunch or a business dinner, you might have to introduce yourself to unknown people but of the same social status that you are carrying. Well, friends, these are different situations in a formal setup wherein you might have to introduce and greet each other. That brings us to the end of our module on introductions and greetings, where we have discussed different ways of greetings and different ways of introducing yourself in a formal or an informal get-up, and different situations wherein you might have to use this to your advantage. Well, I would really want you to start practicing it as soon as possible so that you become really pro at introductions and greetings. Thank you very much for watching us. Do write in your comments to us. Thank you very much once again.